Most SEOs optimize for what Google says it wants rather than what actually gets results. And that's why they never rank number one. Simple as that. In this video, I'm going to break down the difference between Google's guidelines and the search engine's actual behavior. And I'm going to show you how to build an SEO strategy that actually drives rankings and, of course, organic search revenue for your e-commerce brand. So, first and foremost, I believe that too many SEOs optimize for Google's documentation, not Google's actual behavior. Okay. They treat content and spam guidelines from Google like they're sacred text, but even after they follow them, they still never manage to rank number one. And it just doesn't make sense to me why you would continue to listen to a $1.75 trillion company about their best practices when the best practices have yet to serve you well. Okay. Look, let's take a look at this article from late March, on Search Engine Journal. Google confirms that you cannot add EAT to your web pages, a practice they have largely preached about for potentially probably the better part of the last decade, Now, not from Google directly, but literally 4 days later from the same website about Search Engine Journal, probably one of the leading publishing sites regarding SEO, they read an article that contradicts their previous post. First, they say you can't add EAT. Then this article says how to apply EAT to your site and boost on-page SEO. The issue with just following this kind of stuff is that it's always going to contradict itself, and it's never going to work. Let's look at Google's content and spam guidelines. So this is their creating helpful content guidelines. You can just Google. You can literally search Google's content guidelines, and you will find this article or this documentation. Focus on people first content. Do you have an existing or intended audience for your business that would find the content useful if they came to you? Tons of bullet points. I think the one we should really focus on is avoid creating search engine first content. Everyone says to write for users, not for search engines. I understand the premise, and the premise really is just write good content, something that a human would find valuable. However, time and time again, it's been shown, in various tests, how to not necessarily manipulate the content to work for search engines, but if you create content that is human first and it doesn't at all involve a search engine, or it's not tailored to a search engine, no human is ever going to see it via organic search, because if the engine doesn't like it, the human is never going to see it. So right away, you should think about blending content to be both search and user friendly. It can't just be one or the other. It has to be both. Now, typically my advice on content is hit publish, see how Google reacts to it, and then iterate from there. Do not spend weeks or months agonizing over the perfect draft that is both human and search engine centric. Create an article, a page, what have you, publish it, see what the data says in Search Console, and then optimize, update it, iterate it from there, and just keep doing that until you rank number one. You can never create a piece of content that is both search, or that is perfectly search engine focused and expect it to perform really, really well for humans, nor can you do it in the reverse, producing a human piece of content and expecting search engines to rank it and show humans. Simply can't be done. Right now, spam policies, same thing. This is their link, mostly regarding link building. There's a couple of other things in here as well, but I want to focus on the link building side of things. Buying or selling links for ranking purposes, this goes against their link spam policies. This is not against any law. This is their guideline. It says this is a spam policy and you will be penalized if you do this. I can tell you right now, I pay for links. I know tons of almost every SEO I know pays for links in some capacity. That is just how things get done. It is efficient. It is scalable. And as long as you're being careful about it and you're not just blatantly building exact match anchors to the same page 100 times in a row, you can do this effectively. So I'm also aware of other SEOs who never build links, they never pay for links, and they just try and earn them, or link exchange a few, and they never rank. Simple as that. And it's no kidding, because you're not actually building good links. You're trying to follow these rules and color inside the lines, but it's very clear that the people who are winning are coloring. They're at least graying or blurring the lines, if not definitely coloring outside of them. So playing by the rules is not going to get you anything if the people you're competing against are not also competing fairly. Simple as that. So this documentation is a decent starting point if you're just learning SEO. But I will tell you, a lot of the documentation is noise, and a lot of it is inaccurate. They tell you that You can't buy or sell links for ranking purposes, yet myself and tons of other SEOs do it and rank number one. So would you rather listen to this, documentation that says don't do it, or would you rather just like research yourself and figure out what's ranking number one and just do more of that? Because that is what, in fact, you should be doing. I would almost argue that following Google's content spam guidelines and whatever other documentation they have, I would almost argue that following all of that stuff to a T is a surefire way to make sure you, in fact, don't ever rank number one. Okay. There are tons of checklists they have out there. There are tons of, their guidelines, their spam guidelines. We talked about that, right? All those things say a lot of things. Okay. You want to know what works? Two really important things work consistently. Okay. Great content, great links. Everything else they tell you should do is pretty much irrelevant, if not at least second order to those two things. Okay. You think you may need, I guarantee you on their guidelines or documentation somewhere, you want to have, green or A+ Core Web Vitals scores, what those are called now, or perfectly optimized image alt text, or hundreds of different types of schema. None of these things matter if you do not create good content and power it up with links. Like, none of those things are going to rank you number one if you don't take care of the content and links part. Okay. You cannot page speed your way to the top spot. Simply doesn't matter, because if content doesn't match it, no one's going to give a shit about how fast your page loads if the content sucks. Simple as that. If you want to know what actually works, like I said, just Google whatever keyword you want to rank for. Go into it, take a deep dive on the top 3 results, their content, their internal link structure, their backlinks that they built to that page and their other pages, and just reverse engineer a strategy to do better than that. Simple as that. Like, the documentation doesn't matter. Okay. The most consistent thing that works in SEO is just taking the top results, reverse engineering, and just making a better version of it, right? Guaranteed number one spot. Okay. The first 2 or 3 years of my SEO career, all I did, it was like it was a slow process, but literally all I did for every single page I wanted to rank for is I just looked at the top 3, I created a full 1 to 2 page Google Doc brief of what I needed to do, keywords to use, sub-article, topical articles to create, internal links I needed to build, both the anchors and the volume of them I needed to build, as well as the backlink gap. And I just did that, and every single page I did it for ranked number one within a matter of 2 or 3 months. Okay. No content guideline, no spam guideline, just seeing what the top result is and making a better version of it. Okay. Like I said, I've ranked number one, I think it's several thousand, probably 3,000 or 4,000 times in the last few months alone. And not once in the last few years have I even bothered to check a Core Web Vitals score or optimize image alt text perfectly for any of the clients we work with. Okay. Same thing with, schema or one of the other thousands of technical SEO, line items that Google says you absolutely have to do. Okay. I've not done any of these things because, like I said, they are second order comparatively to good content and good links. Okay. You need good keyword research. You need optimized pages at every stage of the funnel. You need a good internal link infrastructure, and you need to power it up with consistent backlink building. And I mean consistent, month over month over a timeline of multiple years. Okay. If you're just getting started with SEO, or you're doing a lot of SEO and you can't seem to get anywhere, no improvements in ranking, performance, revenue, anything like that, you need to stop treating SEO like this game of compliance. Okay. A nearly $2 trillion company does not have your best interest at heart. Okay. You need to go find some wins for yourself. You need to figure out what's working, and you need to recreate that on your site, and guaranteed you will rank at the top of Google. Okay. No matter what their compliance says.